Alright, this video is a continuation from our previous video where we look at different types of ETF that exist in the Nigerian Stock Exchange. In this video, we'll be looking at ranking of those ETFs. So it's just going to be a very basic kind of overview about which ETF is better when it comes to all of these ETF that we have in that particular stock exchange. So I'm going to use my AI in terms of doing this ranking. So watch out for my prompts, how those prompts are included very specifically, and what the output is, and then we'll review the output um, of the result or the outcome. So I'll say rank. So look at that from best to worst. Okay, so that is very important. Rank the ETF from best to worst on the Nigeria Stock Exchange and include. Look at that again. So that very specific include why they are best. So just include here and could end up with so much detail. I just want a brief overview why the AI model thinks that these are the best ETF. So include briefly, okay, briefly include why they are best ETF. Okay. So I won't stop at this stage. When you stop at this stage, it's going to provide you so much information that is going to take so much time to exhaust. I would say provide this on a 2 by 2 table. So it becomes very visual and very quick to have that kind of snap information that you save time in terms of looking at what exactly is happening here. So if you are interested in any of those ETFs, that's when you actually dig more into it. And for sure, when the AI ranks them to be the worst, in most cases, they could actually be the worst. Okay, so I won't look at those ones that are in the bottom line. I'll prioritize perhaps the best three or the best four. But again, it depends on how you want to spread out your investment capital. But usually, when you say it's worse, could be some of those companies that are just dying off the stock markets completely. So I won't even go to that extent. It doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that those companies can actually be the best in the end of the day, but at least I could reduce my risk by at least using this medium. All right, so we have them ranked here from the best. Now we have 12 on the list. Remember in the previous video we didn't have up to 12. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So right here on this list, we have 12 right now. Okay. And if you look at this ranking here, it's a little bit different from the list that we have in the previous video, where we talk about the types of ETF that exist in the Nigeria Stock Exchange. So when we look at this one, the best among them is the Ventiva Griffin 30 ETF. So why is it the best? Best overall tracks the Nigeria's 30 largest companies, has the largest ETF asset on the Nigeria Stock Exchange, relatively better liquidity, and provides broad market exposure, comparable to Nigeria's version of an S&P 500 ETF. That makes sense to me. Uh, the fact that this company focus on the 30 largest companies, they are influential companies. So this will include for sure companies like Dangote, might include other type of top companies that manufacture products in that country. It could be Unilever. Could also include some large oil companies. So these are companies that over time they could hedge against each other and they could protect some kind of investment. So I'll consider that to be reasonable. But I won't stop at this stage. I will actually go and look at the performance of this ETF over a period of time, read more about the analyst report. I'll look at the financial statements. That is going to be on a different video. So number 2 on the list is the Stabic IBTC ETF 30. And on this ETF, you have the ETF tracks about 30 index offering diversified exposure to Nigeria. Blue chips companies, interesting. I never knew they would have blue chip companies, but again, what does that mean? Something to look at, or watch out for. Suitable for long-term investors. So this could be companies to consider, ETF to consider when it comes to a long-term investment. New Gold ETF. We looked at this earlier. This company tends to focus more on commodities related to gold. So best inflation hedge tracks the international gold price and provides protection against inflation and naira depreciation. Excellent portfolio diversifier. Mm. Again, does that mean you should jump into buying this ETF right now? I won't recommend that yet. I'll do some kind of analysis. I will personally look at this in terms of what is the story behind them. I'll look at the leadership as well and some historical performance. And I'll look at the year that this ETF was established to say that they have sustained that growth over time and that existence, if you like. And then I will also say the track records when it comes to graphing. Now, the next one is the Lotus Halal Equity ETF. I suppose this will be related to the other type of ETF we talked about earlier. When we look at this video in this earlier video whether there's ETF that exists in Nigeria. So one of them talk about the Sharia investment, the Sharia compliant investments, which I said I don't know much about. So I guess this Lotus Halal equity investment is related to that. But let's say why it's considered to be the best, the fourth best ETF. Strong long-term equity fund investing in Sharia compliant Nigeria stock companies, attractive even for non-Muslim investors because of the quality company focus. I guess my only knowledge about the Sharia um, financing is basically they don't intend to make profits, and if they don't intend to make profits, how does the ETF perform? So say something to dig into, or they make profit in a different way, maybe profit sharing instead of charging interest. So that's also another thing. So if they do profit sharing, um, it's more religion linked type of investment. What are the philosophy behind that ETF? So those are things that you might want to research on to make a decision whether this is a great investment or not. But again, it's ranked number 4 when it comes to the ETF in Nigeria. So number 5 is the Ventiva Banking ETF, gives concentrated exposure to Nigeria profitable banking sector, which has historically been one of the strongest sectors on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Higher risk than diversified ETF. So mainly focus on the banking sector. And the banking sector in Nigeria has been resilient for some years. I know in the past you may have banks who shut down for some reasons, but with the high capitalization that was introduced a couple of years ago, the banks there tends to be more stabilized these days than what it used to be. It could be one of those potential. But I think if I wanted to invest in banking sector in Nigeria, I'd probably prefer to invest in individual banks than the ETF. But again, as we look at in the other video we had previously, investing in ETF does have lower risk. But again, it depends on how versatile and experienced you are with stock trading. That may influence your decision to choose individual banks to invest in and hedge them against each other rather than using this ETF. But again, if the ETF has a sustained performance over the number of years, it might be worth having that commitment. And if you don't have the time and you want to lower your risk, it might be best to use one of these ETF that is focused on the banking sector in the Nigeria case. So number 6 on the list is the vertical consumer goods. Um, it invests in defensive consumer companies, less volatile than many sector funds, and suitable for conservative equity investors. Okay, so more like consumer commodities, if you like, might be good for long-term investments. And given the Nigeria large population, this could be a great investment for a long time trade. And then you have the Vetivan Industrial ETF. This will be something that I'll consider too. Number 7 focuses on industrial and manufacturing companies. Good diversification, but more cyclical and consumer goods than consumer goods. So this is important because of the industrialization coming up to that region might be one of the attractions to consider this ETF. You have the Greenwich Alpha ETF. The reason why they consider it um, to be one of the best, it tracks the broader Nigerian Stock Exchange All Share Index, giving so probably not much that I'll focus on. You have the Ventivan S&P Nigeria Sovereign Fund Bond. Let me know why this is best. So best bond ETF on the Nigeria Stock Exchange because appropriate for income focused or conservative investors seeking lower risk than the equity. Mm. So generally, we know that the banks have lower risk than the equity. So, but again, the lower the risk, the lower the return. But that does not mean that the higher the risk, the higher the return. Um, but some stocks could way outperform bond. But generally, some of this ETF tends to hedge against those risks by having some bond in the basket, having some stock in the basket, and having some commodity in the basket. So let's look at this one here. You have the Meristem Growth ETF. So target growth stocks, but has experienced very large price swings because of limited liquidity. Do you remember what I said earlier about liquidity? So it's very important because if you have your stock ordered to sell and no one is there to buy it, it's actually very disappointing and very risky as well, especially when you need that money very urgently. So Meristem Value ETF invest in value stock, but also suffer from thin trading and high volatility, making it less suitable for most retail investors. We have the Siam Pension ETF Fund. 40 tracks the pension eligible security but very low trading volumes. Again, something to pay attention to. So overall recommendations, as you have it there, these are the ones. Um, the AI did it tell me one thing? Did it tell me which of these are worst? But again, because it's basically talks about liquidity here. Of course, they will be the worst one. Okay, so I could say rank them from worst to best. Rank them from worst to best, keeping the same output format. That output format is the 2 by 2 table. So instead of having that long word 2 by 2 table, we could use very short instruction here, and it's going to present us the same format so it understands what it is. Let's see what that is. All right, so you could see that here from worst to the best. Okay, reverse the same information we have earlier. All right, so my next video will focus on the best. We'll be looking at the best. We'll be doing some analysis using going to the company website and perhaps, and then we'll probably look at the stock charts performance over the years. Um, and then we might use AI a little bit of it, or we might not use it at all. But we will not dig into those specific ETF to have more information. Where possible, we also look at the financial statements to see how they perform over the last 3 years or 4 years. And all of that information are useful in terms of making decision. So if you are watching this video, you have not subscribed, I'll really appreciate if you take some time to subscribe to this channel so you could receive updates once I have new videos. At the same time, you are also improving the channel so that people who want this information or education could have access to it.